Hey everyone, me Kevin here. We are standing by for Mitch McConnell and the other GOP leaders in the Senate to hold this news conference. We expect that this could potentially be a counteroffer style news conference. Think about it. Yesterday we had the bipartisan group come out with a revised two-part $908 billion package, which what's fascinating about that is we're expecting a counteroffer on the $916 billion package, which we haven't heard of certainly not this week. So it'd be interesting to see if in this press conference we get some kind of update on this. So that way we can compare the two packages. Are we going to see this $916 billion package stick around, or are we going to see a potential division in the $916 billion package where they split their bill as well? We'll probably find that out in this press conference here. We're up against the wire. We still don't have them up at the mic here, but there are a few updates that I can provide while we wait for them to come out. So a few updates while we wait for this conference to start. Number one, there will be a stimulus meeting at 4 p.m. today between Democrats and Republicans. So this press conference is actually coming right before the meeting that happens in about 2 hours Eastern time. So at 4 p.m. Eastern time, there will be a stimulus meeting between Pelosi, Mnuchin will be there, and other leaders. I believe McConnell's going to be there as well. Then Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin did also have a phone call. I'll go ahead and mute them for a second. Did also have a phone call for an hour at noon, an hour and 7 minutes. And Kayleigh McEnany mentioned that Donald Trump wants to see checks, hopeful for stimulus checks to be included in this. We'll see what happens. But for right now, we are on standby waiting for this Republican press conference to begin. Dr. Fauci has advised Joe Biden to take the vaccine, by the way. Joe Biden says he will take the COVID-19 vaccine on camera, and he'll provide notice for this. Joe Biden's also said that he's spoken with Mitch McConnell, so it'll be interesting to see what could potentially comes out of the Biden-McConnell relationship. They've had a good relationship in the past, and they've been able to get bipartisan deals done in the past between between McConnell and Biden. So we'll see what happens going forward. See potentially some movement there at the door. Obviously, we're waiting for this press conference to begin. It was scheduled to begin 8 minutes ago now, and I started the stream 6 minutes after the hour, assuming that they would be late. But obviously, we will wait for this to begin. In the meantime, let's try to anticipate what we could expect will happen here. So I always like using the whiteboard just to understand things a little bit better. It helps me out, just picture what the heck we've got going on. So remember what we've got, and I'll put myself up here while we wait for this press conference to begin. Remember what we've got is while we wait for the press conference, we've got the $908 billion package. We've got a lot of enthusiasm over this in terms of Manchin, right? Joe Manchin, the other people from the bipartisan group, they're saying, hey, it looks like we're going to get our $748 billion package through. We're going to get the votes for this. No problem with the votes on the 748. The 160, honestly, the way things are stacking up right now, probably not going to see the 160 state and local and liability relief. This is really the big question mark right now, is what are we going to get out of this Republican press conference? And in terms of expectations, I remember that the $916 billion package is a proponent of stimulus checks. And so it'll be interesting to see if we hear anything about stimulus checks in this press conference, because Kayleigh McEnany just finished up her press conference less than 30 minutes ago. And she numerous times answered the question that Donald Trump wants to see stimulus checks, that Steve Mnuchin wants to see stimulus checks. We know earlier in this pandemic that Steve Mnuchin mentioned that stimulus checks are a very efficient form of stimulus to help boost the economy. We know that Republicans see stimulus checks as an opportunity to get more money spread out faster than in other means. That sure, unemployment might be very targeted, but it doesn't reach as many people. Republicans are very interested in reaching as many people as possible with the relief that they do. There have also been rumors that maybe what we can do is we can take that $748 billion bipartisan package and then just add $1,200 stimulus checks to that. See, if you took $748 billion and you added stimulus checks to 748, you'd probably be up about, especially if you include all dependents, you'd probably be looking at about $350 billion to get the stimulus checks in there. So of $1,200. So you'd probably be looking at something like a revised 1098 stimulus package. If we saw 12 and 12 get included, or even 12 and 5 included, and they're somewhere around there, which will be interesting to see because we know that the Republicans are pushing for those stimulus checks. So we'll see what they say in this press conference. I do think that, especially given that it's Tuesday right now, and we've got a self-imposed deadline here, a Friday, to get the stimulus done, I wouldn't be shocked to hear some really good details on this $916 billion package. What kind of paths forward do they have? Well, they could fold. They could totally fold on their plan, and we could see that $916 billion package just go away. That is an option. They could take 916 bill off the table and then just say, you know what, we've decided to latch on to the 748. Hey, we've decided we're going to go ahead and support the 748, but we're not going to do the state and local. That is a potential. That's option one, right? Option two is they stick to their guns and they say, no, we don't like this split bill. We don't want any of this crap. We want our version of liability protections. We want our version of state funding, and we want our $916 billion bill in total. That is option two. And option three, so if option one is getting rid of it, option two is holding firm, option three is sort of doing that mixed version where we say, hey, well, we're going to split our bill too, but we want the priority to be on stimulus checks instead of unemployment pay. Now, we are about 12 minutes behind right now on this press conference beginning, which is a little annoying, but hey, you know what? Oh, I see a door. Oh, I see a door. Oh, what? It's so exciting. All right, here we go. Let's see what they say. Come on, let's get some good news, people. Usually you just piss us off. Oh, it's Mitch. What's up, Mitch? He looks like in my thumbnail. It's just like my thumbnail.
Well, there's a genuine feeling of excitement throughout the country over the delivery of the vaccine. Just to give you a sense of how that's working in my state, the largest concentration of UPS employees in the country is in Louisville, Kentucky, my hometown. I wish the corporate headquarters was there. It's in Atlanta, but nevertheless, packages are being routed through Louisville to go all over the world, and it is one of the key locations that are delivering vaccine all over the country over the last 24 hours. The first shots have been administered. Hope is on the way, and our job here is to guarantee that there's enough money to facilitate the delivery, as well as to do other things that we can agree on. And as I've said repeatedly, number one, we're not leaving here without a COVID package. It's not going to happen. We're going to stay here until we get a COVID package. No matter how long it takes, we'll be here until we get a COVID package. Number two, the way forward, obviously, is to put aside the two things that are the most contentious on each side.
State and local liability.
Liability protection and state and local. We all know the new administration is going to be asking for another package. We can live to fight another day on what we disagree on, but we ought to agree to go forward on what we can agree on.
Right.
That is the way forward.
The 748?
No less a figure than the number two Democrat in the House of Representatives, the majority leader, said on Sunday in one of the talk shows that it made sense to set aside the two things that were the most contentious and agree on all the rest. So it is still my hope we're going to get an omnibus appropriation, and it will have attached to it, when it comes over from the House, an agreement that we've been able to reach with the four corners and Secretary Mnuchin and the President.
What? So they reached an agreement on something? Tell us more.
Well, it is great news. The vaccine coming out in record time, 5 times faster than any vaccine literally in history. And in my state of South Dakota yesterday, frontline workers were getting vaccine.
Wait. I'm just going to lower this guy for a second on the vaccine here. He just said we have an agreement with Mnuchin, Trump, and the four corners. Steny Hoyer, Pelosi, McCarthy, McConnell, Schumer.
Senate and the House and the White House to make this happen in record time. Truly remarkable achievement.
See if we get some more details here. This is John Thune.
Start to deliver meaningful relief to the American people. There are a few things left for us to do. Obviously, with the vaccine out there, we have resources available in legislation that we're considering to help distribute that vaccine in a quick and an efficient way. That needs to be addressed in a COVID package. As the leader pointed out, the list of issues has narrowed significantly, and there is bipartisan buy-in and support for a proposal that does a few of the basic things we all agree on. It helps our hardest hit small businesses. It provides unemployment insurance to people who are unemployed, provides money for vaccine distribution, money for schools. Those are all elements of legislation that we've been talking about, frankly, legislation that we voted on now a couple of times in the Senate and had a majority of senators vote in favor of. And that's where I hope this will land. And whether or not it lands there really is up to, at this point, Speaker Pelosi and Democrat leader Schumer here in the Senate. The bipartisan group has come to that conclusion. They've jettisoned, as the leader pointed out, the most controversial elements of that proposal, which is funding for state and local governments and liability protections. So those two things are, if they're not on the table, what you're left with are the things that I just mentioned, which enjoy broad bipartisan support and which should make this really a pretty easy negotiation. But it does require the leadership on the Democrat side to agree with the bipartisan group of senators, including Senator Durbin, who've been working on this for some time. I think we all need to get this done. I think the American people deserve to have action by the Congress to address in a targeted, fiscally responsible way the most critical needs that are out there as a result of the pandemic. And we're in a position to do something about that and to do it this week. We have a spending bill that's going to be coming over, and it's a perfect place for the COVID relief bill to ride, to get this all done at one time. And I certainly hope on behalf of the people of this country that the Democrat leadership here in the Congress, Senate and House will get together with our Republican leadership and finish a job, frankly, that should have been done a long time ago. But frankly, if it gets done now, it will be great news for the American people.
It sounds like they're on board with the $748 billion package. They're just like, hey, as long as Pelosi sends it over.
Well, people all across this country are receiving today the shot against coronavirus. The vaccine has arrived, and I will tell you, from the point of being a Christmas gift to the American people, you could hope for no better.
Keep in mind, they'll do Q&A usually in these sessions as well, so we'll get more insight.
Remarkable. 3 million doses sent out yesterday, 636 locations, 5 spots in Wyoming. It is working, and it is a front page story in every newspaper in America. You open a newspaper and you see someone getting the shot, the vaccine for coronavirus. It is also a sign of incredible American ingenuity. The efforts made by scientists, by companies.
Okay, while he talks about the vaccine, I do want to say that Nancy Pelosi spent that hour on the phone earlier with Mnuchin. Maybe she's warming up to removing that state and local government funding as well, because the Republicans here, they're making it seem like we're ready to slam dunk the $748 billion bill. And McConnell already suggested that, hey, well, maybe we'll live to fight another day on the next stimulus package with Joe Biden.
As well as the most vulnerable. When I think of this as being a doctor in terms of how important is this, what kind of a breakthrough is it? It is similar to insulin, to penicillin, and certainly as safe and effective as the polio vaccine. It is exactly what we need to get America back on track in terms of our economy, in terms of kids back to school, and putting the disease behind us. So what have the Democrats been doing? They have continued to block us every step along the line. And just in the last couple of weeks, both Speaker Pelosi and Senator Durbin have admitted that they've held up relief for political purposes. They've held up coronavirus relief for political purposes because of the election, and allowed the American people to continue in isolation and suffering and hardships because they had a political agenda. They have blocked our efforts as Republicans 40 different times. It is time for the political games to be over. We need a solution. The American people are depending upon all of us. From a standpoint of good news, you may have seen some of the polls that show more people, as they learn more about the vaccine, are much more willing to get the vaccine. And I saw that former
So if you're just now joining, we've heard Mitch McConnell say that we are basically, they have a deal on the $748 billion package. It's just a matter of Pelosi okaying it. And so we're waiting for more clarity on this, getting through this vaccine talk. That's all you had to say was vaccine
Well,
stuff.
on the recovery from the pandemic front, which obviously is going to take some time now before we get there, but the National Institute of Health today announced the first home test to come through the Shark Tank process. They'll be producing about 100,000 of those a day in January, 250,000 a day by the end of February. Tests could be taken at home. I think over 800 applications of various kinds on testing were made at NIH to become partners in the Shark Tank. About 24 of those have now been in production. Many of them were point of service tests that have been happening at campuses and other places.
Okay, I'm going to lower just for a moment while he's talking about the vaccine here. There's an update that came in that Mitt Romney was suggesting to include the $1,200 stimulus checks in exchange for dropping liability and state aid, but that it looked like most of the senators he suggested that to were not okay with doing the $1,200 stimulus checks in this package. That kind of echoes what we heard this morning. Let's see what else we hear in this conference, though.
I was in a conference call last week with the people running that program. They were saying 20 million people will have their vaccines done by the end of December, 100 million by the end of March. And I asked specifically the question, do you mean 100 people will have had both shots they need, 100 million by the end of March? And the answer was yes. That many people will be through this process, should be able to fully engage in society, at least safely for them and others therewith. On Friday, the government just bought another 100 million doses of the Moderna vaccine that, again, hopefully will be approved this week and will be added to the 100 million that we had previously contracted for.
Okay, let's get more stimulus talk.
So over the weekend, we had a football game. I don't know if you caught that, Todd, but the United States Military Academy did defeat the United States Naval Academy, 15-0 total shutout at Mikey Stadium. So again, we want to thank not only the cadets and midshipmen, but all of those that step forward to wear our nation's uniform. So not only is the Army a winner, but also
I have to say, so I'm sorry, like I want to just focus on the stimulus stuff, but obviously when it's live like this, we have to listen to their prefaces.
This is a tremendous success thus far with Operation Warp Speed. And I really want to give those that have been in charge of this program, all of those that have put the research and development into it, those that are working on the logistical side to make sure our states are receiving the vaccines. I want to say thank you to all of them for their great efforts to make sure that we're protecting the American people. So we are very concerned about that. Iowa is excited about their receipt of the vaccinations. They will go ahead and distribute those to, of course, those hospital and healthcare workers and those that are most vulnerable. They will start receiving those. But beyond that, beyond Operation Warp Speed, as a number of my colleagues had mentioned, we need COVID relief. Okay, so not only do we need to fund the vaccinations and the process of distribution, we also need to make sure that we are supporting our American businesses, industry, our individuals, our healthcare systems. I could go on all day. And again, we don't want this to be political at this point. We just need relief. Iowa restaurants are wondering, are we going to be here? Are we going to be here in another week or so? Relief is needed. So I am encouraging, again, everyone to come together. Let's wrap this up. We need to get it done by the end of the year and make sure that everyone sees the relief that's necessary to support our economy.
All right, let's see if we get McConnell back for some questions. Nope, not yet.
Joni, I want to congratulate you and all the Army fans out there, and better luck next year for those of us who are backers of Navy. But I'll take Joni's pregame position, which is the American people win every time we play. It's a win for the American people. It's really not about who wins and loses. Thank you for recognizing that last week. Clearly, a win for the American people has been this rapid development and approval of Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine. Something to be celebrated. It's really a testament to the ingenuity and determination of the American people that we're able to get this developed and approved in such rapid fashion, and also a testament to Operation Warp Speed. This would not have happened but for Operation Warp Speed. We're now at a point where just yesterday there was vaccine delivered to a hospital in Indiana so that our high-risk healthcare, hardworking personnel on the front lines would have access to this groundbreaking, game-changing vaccine. And in the coming week, we're going to see this vaccine distributed to 50 additional hospitals around the state of Indiana.
While he talks about vaccines and while we wait for more stimulus talk, I just want to mention that right now, New York City has mentioned that a shutdown is likely after Christmas, per the mayor.
Symptoms of and to contain this deadly virus. The ball's sort of in our court now in Congress. The researchers have done their work. So many of the American people, our essential workers, are doing their part. Now it's time for Congress to do its part and pass this end-of-year coronavirus relief package so that we can make sure we get vaccine out to more Americans as we head into next year and provide additional economic relief as so many Americans continue to suffer. We really need to put politics aside. It seems like we're getting very close to doing that and coming to terms on some difficult issues, and I'm very pleased about that. The Electoral College submitted its vote, and I also think as we look into next year, it's very important that each of us pledges to work with President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris to ensure that we keep the American people safe and secure so that we get through this coronavirus period and we emerge very strongly on the back end of it.
All right, put McConnell back up
Yeah,
there.
let me add one additional thought on the vaccine. As a polio survivor myself, unfortunately, the vaccine had not yet been developed. I'm a huge supporter of being vaccinated when you have a substance that you know works. And so whenever my turn comes, I'm going to be anxious to take the vaccine and to reassure, do my part to reassure those who are doubtful about this, that we really need to get the country vaccinated. When you have about half of the population either skeptical or saying they won't do it, that's not good news. So I think all of us who do have at least some following in the country need to step up, as the former presidents are, and as I'm sure people in the entertainment world will as well, to encourage people to do this. It's the right thing to do for yourself, for your family, and for the country.
I have a question about the
Questions?
vaccine money in the COVID relief plan. Many states, including your own, say they actually needed that vaccine money months ago so they could plan. How much longer are they going to have to wait?
Well, we tried in September. I would remind
Timing.
you, we tried in October. We've been trying for months. They're not, shouldn't have been put in this position. We should have done this a long time ago. I've been saying for weeks, and you've been listening to me saying for weeks, let's put aside the things we can't agree on and do the things we can. That's just another good argument to get it done now. And we're not leaving, I assure you, we're not leaving until we finish this package. Manu?
It's a 7:48.
Your speech this morning about Joe Biden, congratulating him for winning. One thing you did not mention was President Trump's claims that this election was rigged, it was stolen.
It's an election question.
Do you have any concerns at all about what the president is saying, and should he accept the results?
Look, I don't have any advice to give the president on the subject. I said this morning for me, and I think on the basis of the way the system works, the decision by the Electoral College yesterday was determinative.
Mr. Leader, thank you. The President-elect, former Vice President Biden, said this morning that you two spoke on the phone. Do you
Biden
think
and him
you deserve
speaking.
to have key members of his cabinet in place on day one, on January 20th, like you did, for example, with James Mattis?
Confirming.
Well,
the
look,
cabinet.
our first job here is to try to finish up this session with this administration, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about the way forward.
Yeah.
My concentration right now is on the subjects that we've been talking about, finishing up our work, President Trump is going to be there until January the 20th. We need to continue to work with him. The future will take care of itself. Yeah.
Give your thoughts going into this meeting this afternoon. Is it your view that there basically is no deal available with state and local money and it just needs to be dropped completely? Is that your
Dropping.
Well, we're not
state and local.
negotiating the deal in here, but it's pretty obvious the way to get a deal for weeks has been exactly what I said, what Steny Hoyer's suggested, and what the bipartisan group has suggested is to drop the two most contentious items for the moment. We all know the new administration is going to be asking for yet another package. It's not like we won't have another opportunity to debate the merits of liability reform and of state and local government in the very near future. Thank you.
Okay, so let's recap here what we got. This was actually pretty big news. Just make sure they're not coming back. Sometimes they come back. Okay, so yeah, pretty good news here because, I mean, not only did we hear Mitch McConnell say we're not leaving until we get a COVID package, but he made it very clear that we will, quote, on another package, we'll live to fight another day. And then he just reiterated that when the next administration comes in. And right before he finished his sort of speech at the beginning, before all of the other representatives or senators spoke, he made it pretty clear that the way forward is put state and local and liability provisions aside and pass something like the bill we've got now, the $748 billion package. There was absolutely zero mention in this conversation here about stimulus checks. No checks are coming in this package. That is the same thing that we heard Joe Manchin say this morning. Right now, everything is focused on $748 billion. We literally heard nothing about the $916 billion package. It appears that the $916 billion package is dead. The $908 billion package is dead. The odds of seeing stimulus checks added to a $748 billion package, Romney tried it. The checks, they're not coming in this round. Instead, we're going to see this $748 billion package get pushed through. We've got a 4 p.m. Eastern time meeting, which is in an hour and a half between Pelosi, Mnuchin, and this is an in-person meeting, and probably I would imagine McConnell's going to be there as well. This meeting, when they come out of this meeting, it would not be a shocker at all to hear them say that we have a deal on the $748 billion package. So again, no stimulus checks. The whole $600 stimulus check thing, not even coming up anymore. The $916 billion stimulus checks, not coming up. Everything is focused on this package that we saw yesterday, which was $748 billion, extends all form of unemployment for 16 weeks, $300 billion for small business aid. EIDL grants are in that as well. So what are we going to do when this passes? We're going to be talking about how to re-up our unemployment, how to get those EIDL grants, how to get that second PPP round, how to get the boosted SNAP benefits, although those will probably be automatic. This rental provision section is going to be huge. How are we going to how are people supposed to apply for rental provisions? Do the landlords have to go, or who's it going to be? That is, do the landlords apply? Do the tenants apply? How do we prove that they're actually behind on rent? And what does that mean for the people who aren't behind on rent? A lot of things going on here. Then, of course, we've got some of these other benefits, but state and local liability provisions, dead in the water. Stimulus checks, dead in the water, at least for another month until Biden comes around. But this was as close as we can get to Mitch McConnell saying, we have a deal on $748 billion. So there you have it. You could rewind the stream to see it exactly from him. Thank you so much for joining me for the stream. Really appreciate it. Consider sharing if you found it helpful. Get yourself 4 free stocks with Webull via the link down below when you deposit $100. And of course, check out the courses linked down below for building your wealth. Thanks, everyone. Bye.